This is an HDMI splitter that I use for my entertainment system, and it does have an on-off switch here. It does not have a remote control for it. So I wanted to find a way to turn it on and off remotely without dealing with another remote or buying anything else. Here's what I came up with. Now I know that many TVs nowadays, they do have USB ports, and so I figured I would use the 5 volts coming from the USB port on the TV and then run it to a relay board, and that will power on the HDMI splitter. Now my relay board is low enabled, so I just basically have to invert the signal. So to invert the signal, you would just use a standard bipolar transistor. The input goes into the base. On the collector, you have an inverted output. So if your input is 0, you get a high out. Input is high, you get a low out. I really didn't want to do that. I wanted a little more logic. Here's the schematic for my USB power on circuit. This is the TV and the USB port on the TV. It provides positive 5 volts when it's on. Here's the 8-pin microcontroller, which is a PIC 12F683. I'm using pin 2 for the input, and it monitors the 5 volts coming from the TV. This happens to be a 10K resistor. When pin 2 detects 5 volts coming from the TV USB port, it will enable pin 5 and make it low, activating the relay board. This is the power adapter that provides voltage for the equipment that you want to power on. In my case, I'm powering on the HDMI splitter. When the relay board is activated, this connection will make contact with this connection here, completing the circuit. Here's a simple program that I wrote for the microcontroller. I'm using a PIC 12F683, and GPIO port 2 is pin 5, and GPIO port 5 is pin 2. First it sets GPIO port 2 to high, and that turns off the relay. Then it drops down to this loop here, check for on, and it monitors GPIO port 5 to see if it's high. If it's high, it'll go to power up. Power up will set GPIO port 2 to low, and that turns on the relay. Then it drops to check for off. If GPIO port 5 is low, or 0, then it goes to double check off. Down at the bottom, it pauses 30 seconds, and then it double checks GPIO port 5 to see if it's low. If it is low, it goes to power down, which is up here, and sets GPIO port 2 to high, and that turns off the relay. And then it goes back to check for on. Okay, here's the circuit I put together. This is a PIC 12F683 microcontroller. It's an 8-pin DIP, and I just added a bypass capacitor here. The yellow, green, and blue wires, they go to the relay board. These 2 black wires here, that's 5 volt power, powering this microcontroller. The blue cable is the USB cable. This plugs into the USB port on your TV. This is where the 5 volts is sensed on the microcontroller. Okay, this is the relay board connected to the circuit. This is the bypass switch that I connected to the relay. Okay, everything is powered on. The switch for the HDMI splitter is in the on position. I'm also using a USB power bank to simulate the USB port on the TV. When I press this button here, it'll activate the port, turning on the splitter. Okay, when I unplug it, there should be a delay before turning off. Okay, I found a small project box. The size wasn't ideal, but it was the only one I had. So I mounted the relay board on top of the box and also the toggle switch for the bypass. The USB cable is connected to the TV. Now I did leave the power switch in the on position for the HDMI splitter, and I'm going to use the remote control for the TV. Turn on the TV. There's also the bypass toggle switch. So if I'm recording something and the HDMI splitter needs to remain on, what I can do, turn on the bypass, and that'll keep the HDMI splitter on, and then I can turn off the TV. Here's a closer look. So here's my simple circuit that will turn on my HDMI splitter just by using my TV remote. I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a great day.